do you feel? Like you've been stuck in a maze of trying to understand and express what narcissism is, because it's so prevalent, possibly because it's stuck in your system, or because you can see it plaguing the systems of people around you and the system at large. I want to put a really simple working definition on narcissism and actually instead use the term narcissistic conditioning. Because at this point, to me, it feels pretty irrelevant if someone does or doesn't, can or cannot be defined explicitly as a narcissist. That no longer matters to me because narcissistic conditioning is so prevalent in our personal and collective systems. So, working definition, narcissism in a nutshell. Narcissism is being off-center. Everybody has a center inside themselves. It's kind of elusive, but also kind of obvious. Narcissism is the byproduct, the qualities, the behaviors of narcissism are the byproduct of being off of that center. And a lot of people are trapped, are experiencing themselves as anchored off center. That's the foundation that they know, and a version of trust, as much trust as they can muster. They have a commitment to that place because that's the familiar place. That's what they know of themselves. And a lot of energy goes into grooming perceptions of themselves as good while anchored in that place. That's not good for anyone to be anchored off center. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't work good. Which doesn't mean a person off center, anchored off center, is bad or purposefully malicious or lost forever to narcissistic behavior. But you have to consciously choose to make your way back to center to access your own deep innocence and benevolence and goodness, which is always there, even when you're imprisoned here, but it's locked up because it contradicts where you're anchored to that you are so defensive of. So anyone can spend time off center and defensive about the place where they're anchored or they are experiencing themselves from, stabilizing, attempting to stabilize. It will always be non-efficient to stabilize off center because center is always calling, is a magnet inside yourself, always pulling, and so it will always have the power to shake up any other foundation that you are trying to secure yourself in, which our culture for generations and generations has suggested and encouraged and even forced us to anchor off center. And so there's so much momentum and even confidence. There's just so much energy has gone into stabilizing off center and believing in it and becoming familiar with it and defending it. All of that is participation in narcissistic conditioning. Because narcissistic conditioning is to be anchored or seemingly stabilized off of your own center. And when you're in your own center, you are so much more sovereign, where that sort of coercion, conditioning, doesn't have the same access to having a grip on you. But when you're stabilized somewhere else, it does, because the external authority matters. You're always fighting for this authority in yourself, in your belief in yourself as good. But it's just a constant uphill battle, because it doesn't equate to justice or balance in your own system to be off center like this. And so much energy is constantly going into this defense, whether it's just inside or also in the actions, usually both. So much energy going into defending that position, which is resisting the call towards center. Narcissism, in a nutshell, is being off center inside yourself. And the stories you have to tell yourself, the maneuvers inside yourself that you have to go through to keep convincing yourself that this is good and right and where you want to be, you're battling a deeper inner voice that says, come here, come home, come back to center, come back to yourself, come into this sovereignty. It will feel so good, even though the journey can be really confronting and scary and feel like the floor is just dissolving underneath you, because you thought that this was your foundation, but it's not. And it has to crumble to let you go deeper into your own center. And so learning to free fall, learning to float, learning to be in love with timelessness and spaciousness, and to really get into feeling safe with the naturally psychedelic sensations of coming back to center is essential for us to dissolve narcissistic conditioning in our own systems and in the system at large. And we do so in the system at large by enough of us doing it in our own personal systems. That's why this conversation matters. That's why I'm having it with individuals who are already showing up here, willing to nurture themselves, willing to be honest with themselves, willing to explore impulses and energy, because we are the ones that are doing this work. Whether we've already named it and used these words to describe the coming back to center, the coming into feeling and sensing higher mind faculties of being able to witness what's going on in our own emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, moral reality, to really be in relationship with ourselves, which is how we listen and respect and honor and go with it. That call home, the deepening and deepening ascension, is the movement inwards to our own center. And our center benevolently, completely benevolently, reflects center of the cosmos, source, center of the earth. We are anchored and reflecting above and below. There is a divine alchemy at play. And the divine alchemy at play is the dissolution of narcissistic conditioning that convinces, coerces, holds us off center. And then all of the behaviors that surround that required to keep a person off center, because center is actually a magnet that's always calling you home, always calling you home. And so I think it's resonating. What I feel in this group listening is that it's resonating, that, whoa, takes a lot of energy to hold yourself off center. Yes, you're supported by the momentum of the collective, of generational inheritances, the strength of the stories and personalities that you've inherited that can hold you there. But things on earth are shifting. And those stories and personalities are going to be very, very challenged because we are meant to give them up, let them go, and come home. Which doesn't mean that from home you can't explore the stories and personalities, that you can't enjoy or express them or be creative with them or honor them in some way. But they're not going to hold you there. That's not going to be your familiar grounding pad for much longer, because energy on earth is shaking us up, saying, no, you don't belong there. And how fucked up have you felt in the non-belonging? How much has it hurt? How much does it hurt right now in this moment? You do not have to live that way. That is not your natural way of being. Come home. I'm going to leave it at that for today and continue this conversation in a really active way. Please, please, please leave your comments, likes, subscribes, so that I know that you're into it, so that I know that this is the place to keep delivering this conversation. Let me know your questions, your comments, and if you're really into this work, check out my offerings in the links in the description. I love you.